Well, congratulations to the OKC Thunder. I watched the game, bits and pieces of the game, and throughout the series on the boat, I watched the series. It was back and forth basketball. You can't argue that this was a good series. Two teams that were very evenly matched in some parts of the series. But the better team was the OKC Thunder. Now, if Haliburton stays in that game at Game 6, I think the Pacers win that series. I really do. Haliburton was playing good basketball in the first quarter. Those were one of those games that you would see Tyrese Haliburton have a 30, 12, and 11 game, and he has a triple-double and has a world-beating game against a guy like Shai Alexander. Well, it didn't happen. He goes down. Another great player that goes down with an Achilles tendon injury. We saw that against the Knicks with, Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum's going to be out next year. He got his surgery the day after. I expect Tyrese Haliburton to have his surgery today. But two great players going down as fast as they did. You wouldn't absolutely like something like that. You would like to see OKC beat the best players who want to beat Indiana at their top, at their best. Well, things happen. We've seen this before. There's no excuses. And I know that's what the Pacers, and I think in the offseason, the Pacers and Rick Carlisle is going to go out and they're going to tell his team, if we had Haliburton, we win that series. And possibly could be true. But Shai Alexander is one of the best players in the league. I don't know if you can compare him to Michael Jordan. I know a lot of people want to do that. And everybody's trying to find that next Michael Jordan. As well as for years, they were trying to find the other Allen Iverson. You can't compare and contrast players from different eras. What I could say about Shai Alexander is a killer. This guy goes out there, plays at the top of his game, one of the nicest guys on the basketball court. Doesn't really talk much. You can see it, he doesn't talk much. At the end of the game, he doesn't speak bad about the other players or the other team, or even when they lose a game, blame his teammates. That's what's impressive about Shai Alexander. He's special, he's fun to watch, and he's an offense machine. Do I think he's still the NBA MVP for the season? No. I believe Nikola Jokic was the best player in the league. Nevertheless, you can't take away of his success. This guy is one of very few people to win an MVP in a regular season and the MVP of the playoffs. And that stands out from guys like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal, and Michael Jordan. But when you look at this series, it was incredible. Indiana was not expected to make the finals. OKC was. OKC was one of the best teams in the league. They were the best team throughout the season. It was them and the Cavaliers. We expected that OKC was going to be here at one point. I didn't. I'll admit it. I thought the Lakers were going to the finals. I thought the Golden State Warriors had a better chance to make it than the OKC Thunder. So I take back what I say about what I thought of the OKC Thunder being the young team that they were. Nevertheless, this is a very well-run machine, okay? And Jalen Williams, say whatever you want about what Shai Alexander did. When you talk about Batman and Robin, these two guys, when we compare guys like Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, or even LeBron James and Kyrie Irving, this could be one of the top 3, top 4 duos we have ever seen in NBA history play in a final series. That's how good both these guys were back and forth. If Shai wasn't playing well in one game or one half, you had Jalen Williams playing well in that half. And Jalen Williams and Shai Alexander do things that other duos do not do. When you talk about Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, okay? Kobe was a great defender. Shaquille O'Neal was not. Those are the facts. When you look at Shai and Jalen Williams, these guys were killers defensively. They were killers offensively. That's the difference here. Two-dimensional. Two players that can play two-dimensional basketball. And then you look at Tyrese Haliburton and all the players and the cast that they had over there. It was a sensational year for them. They have a tremendous amount of talent and a lot of youth. The problem with them is they don't have the other guy. They have a bunch of good players behind Tyrese Haliburton, and we don't even know if Tyrese Haliburton is an all-world player. He's up and he's down. He has these unbelievable games where we say, this guy is the best point guard in the league, and then there are games that you wonder, where the hell was he in one of the halves? Where the hell was he in the whole game? So that's the problem with Tyrese Haliburton. I look at this series, and I look at all the great series over the last 7 years, and it's an amazing stat, and that's something that's so interesting. The Thunder are one of 7 teams that have won championships in the last 7 years. When you talk about Golden State, We talk about all those teams over the years, Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. It's an amazing feat when you look at the NBA and you look at the compare and contrast all these teams and so close together. The talent is so close in the NBA now. If you look at the NHL, you look at the two best teams in the last 2 years, it's the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. Go look. And by the way, Florida, congratulations to them. I haven't even been done to even get my slacks on the Florida Panthers and the greatness of what they have done in the last 2 years. But I will mention some things about the Florida Panthers a little bit later in the show. What I thought about the NBA playoffs that I've never ever said is the comparable thought that all the teams were so close together. There was no top team in the playoffs. As good as OKC was, and they won, 84 total wins this year? They were a good team. But even the games that they won, they either blew people out or the games are so very close. And that's the thing about OKC. When the Thunder figures things out, when the Thunder, and they're a young team, when they figure things out, they might be unstoppable. They could win 3-4 championships in a row. Next year, they got 2 first-round draft picks. The year after, they got 2 first-round draft picks. This team is loaded, and they're going to be loaded for many, many years. And congratulations to Chet Holmgren, who was the number 1 pick in a draft a couple of years ago, who can't stay healthy, as he admitted after the game. The guy showed up in game number 7, 18 points, 8 rebounds. He was sensational. That's what you need from a third player. When you talk about the trios that we've seen over the years, the Miami Heat, do you remember that? LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh averaged 17, 18 points a game. Dwayne Wade averaged about 24, 25, and LeBron averaged 30. Then you get 3 players of that magnitude giving you that many points and give you those kind of points in those kind of minutes, you're unstoppable. Unstoppable. And that's what OKC is. They're unstoppable. Hartenstein gave you the defense and the boards that you needed offensively. And by the way, in the second half of the game, they absolutely dominated on the offensive side of the boards. Dort was unbelievable. Unbelievable on the boards, especially in game number 7. When you have that kind of rebounding and the defense that they played against Indianapolis, and I know everybody's going to say they didn't have Tyrese Haliburton. Nevertheless, with or without Tyrese Haliburton, even though I think the Pacers would have won that game, they played an unbelievable defensive game. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, the Indiana Pacers did not win that series, even with or without Tyrese Haliburton in a lot of people's eyes. Me differently, other people would probably agree that even with Tyrese Haliburton, they don't win the series.
They're not going to have a great basketball team next year without Haliburton, man. And that, for me, as a Knicks fan, I was really upset with Haliburton, obviously, his antics during the series, but you don't want to see a guy go out like this. There's some people that are kind of reveling in this a little too much. One of our fans was who was putting up there, Kevin, was a little too happy about the injury. Look, don't be too happy about the injury. That's what karma is. He was like, oh, it's karma. Like, no. You saying it's karma is going to mean something bad's going to happen to the Knicks now. So don't do that, Kevin. The Knicks need to have this wide open East next year. Who's better than the Knicks right now going into next season? Even if they don't do anything. Because that's a key guy is hurt other than the Cavs, and I'm not super afraid of the Cavs.
But doesn't this actually upset you? Because think about it. If Indiana is bad next year, they'll be a borderline playoff, but if they're not, they fall off next year. They're going to get a top lottery pick next year with Haliburton coming back and the team that they have together. Same thing with a team like the Boston Celtics. They could be really, really bad. Jaylen Brown could go. I'm hearing stories that Jaylen Brown, Kobe's wife, or there's some stories coming out that he could be dating Kobe's wife.
I did hear that. Yeah.
That could be happening. I don't really care about that. I know everybody keeps saying it. But Jaylen Brown, there are stories coming out that Boston might let Jaylen Brown go and get his knee surgery in the offseason. That means he could be out a half a season. Boston could be really, really, really bad next year, and they could get a lottery pick. Could you imagine what that team's going to be the year after if they have a healthy Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and whoever they draft in next year's draft class?
They'll draft a Boozer brother.
By the way, is one of the best
We'll worry
classes.
about that when we get there.
It's going to be
I
one of
just
the
want
best
the Knicks to
classes
have
in
a
the next 10
chance.
years. Oh,
They got such a good chance now going into next year.
They'll choke like they always do, unfortunately.
Well, we'll see who the coach is. I hope they have a little bit more of a creative defensive system if they're going to stay with Towns and Robinson. Because, look, the Knicks, those guys didn't play together. they were all hurt at different points of the season. So they never ran that Robinson-Towns lineup until they got to the playoffs. So it just, you need to play together. If you're going to run any kind of defensive system, especially the really dependent on each other system Tibbs had, it just wasn't going to work. And I think we saw it at the worst time by a coach who knew how to exploit it. Carlisle deserves all the credit in the world for getting that team to really get to that point. I don't think you can give all the credit to Haliburton. I think Carlisle deserves a whole lot of credit. I mean, we were talking about it last week, Errol. Think about what he did. He was able to defeat the Coach of the Year at the Cavs with our buddy. I can't forget his name right now.
Kenny Atkinson.
Cavs coach.
Yeah,
Kenny Atkinson. Our boy Kenny. Mm-hmm. Then he beats the Knicks so bad, Tibbs gets fired. And then he goes to Game 7 and only loses. And I don't know. The way Haliburton was playing, it looked like it was going to be one of those 30-point triple-doubles. When he hit those 3 threes from way downtown like he was Steph Curry to start the game, my God, it looked like we were about to see it again. And I think that's the only reason they lose. I think he coached almost a perfect playoffs. As good as you possibly can coach. And I think he deserves all the credit in the world.
He deserves a lot of credit. And nobody's going to take away from Rick Carlisle. I know Joba says he was part of those Boston teams. I could care less because he barely played. We know he's a great basketball mind. Right. There's no question he's a great basketball mind. And me and Fish were talking about it, I think it was yesterday or today. We were talking about it today.
Yeah.
That he probably is a top 2 coach right now in the NBA. Him and Spoelstra, you can argue, are the 2 best coaches in the NBA. And I don't think he's better than Spoelstra because Spoelstra has done it with multiple teams, and he's an impressive.
Yeah, he did it with an 8 seed.
Yeah, he's impressive. He's an impressive coach. Pat Riley, disciple. And a lot of those guys, look at it. There's stories coming out that Jeff Van Gundy is interviewing for the Knicks coach again.
Oh, yeah.
Coaching job again. So I don't want Jeff Van Gundy. He's an old man. I don't want the old
I'd rather have him on
himself.
TV calling the game than what the crap we had for that entire series.
I've also heard.
Oh my God!
Did you hear that Stephen A. Smith is pushing for Mark Jackson? I don't want Mark Jackson for one reason. Mark Jackson is a great personality, but in front of the press here in New York, he will make a mockery out of the New York Knicks if the Knicks start to lose. It will be really, really bad. So, and
They're
they
not
will.
Going to Mark Jackson.
I'm just saying,
no way.
They'll drop the hammer on Mark Jackson over here pretty quickly. He'll be like Derek Fisher. Yeah, how quick Derek Fisher was in and out because he was sleeping with other people's wives. That's what's going to happen. I don't think Mark Jackson. By the way, does anybody know the story about Mark Jackson after he got fired? He was out in New York and he was going senile. And he was talking about Jesus Christ being rebirthed and something like that. He was on a video and embarrassed himself. He really embarrassed himself when it came to preaching about certain things and the devil. I mean, I don't want Mark Jackson going out there in the public eye and saying something stupid that's going to make us look bad, worse than we always do as New Yorkers. So I don't want Mark Jackson for all the people, speaking about Mark Jackson being the next head coach for the Knicks. But then again, Rick Carlisle is a sensational coach. You got to give him a lot of credit. And again, the Pacers deserve a lot of credit for all the trials and tribulations they've had all season long. The injuries that they've had, the comebacks that they've had, and the way they shot the ball. When they needed to hit threes and big threes, they did it. The problem with the NBA, you ride with the 3, you die with the 3. And that's what happened with Indiana, and that's why I think the NBA and the LJA, whatever you want to call it, is impossible to understand. These 3-point lines. Eventually, I've been hearing stories that the NBA could try to fit that tournament a 4-point line where you could shoot 4-point shots. I do not want to see that. The NBA needs to stop this disgrace of a basketball game when it comes to, now everybody's going to be chucking up 4 points.